Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nodelman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And the sound of that tone means that it is once again time for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I'm Mike Nodelman.
I'm Aaron Berk.
And so a little background on our podcast. We are now up to episode 12, and as yet I still have not mastered ancient coins, so we carry on. Seriously, Aaron is my boss. I work in his family's company as a U.S. numismatist, but as I have an interest in all things numismatic, Aaron has offered to teach me about ancient coins, and from that idea, we decided to produce this podcast so anybody that wants to can learn along with me from an expert. On today's Ancient Coin Podcast, oh boy, do we have stuff for you. We have a very special interview for you, and we've got some really big news, and I don't think I'm going to tease it anymore. I think we should jump right into it. So, Aaron, tell me what is going on in the world of auctions.
Well, first off, Mike, I think you have learned quite a bit so far. Oh, honestly.
Well, okay. I'll give you. Let me ask you this. I sent a customer up to you today with a coin.
Yeah.
Was it indeed fake?
I don't think he talked to me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I'm going to say that it was real.
Okay.
Because I want you to succeed, Mike.
No. I set somebody up with what I thought was a fake coin. Seriously.
Oh, you thought it was fake?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? You know, if your gut tells you it's fake, it probably was.
Well, it had a seam.
Oh, it had a seam.
It had a
so
seam.
It's casting.
Yeah. So
had a casting.
That was pretty much what I. Yeah.
Got it.
But I still haven't mastered it. So on we go.
So I actually think you have learned a lot, and
thanks.
I'm happy about that. And hopefully our listeners are learning along with you.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of the show.
Right.
So as far as auction news, there's not a lot going on right now. There's a lot of e-sales like there always is. I wanted to profile 3 auctions that are coming up the end of June, and actually one that closes tomorrow, which, depending on when you listen to this, it may not matter. But anyway, as far as the 2 sales that I'm going to profile, we have the Numismatics sale, which is going to be it's June 25th through the 27th. And as usual, they have a lot of lots, almost 4,000 lots, 3,900 lots in 3 days.
So this one is Web Auction 20.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And, it has a lot of great coins. I mean, there's, 385 Greek coins. If you love Celtic, there's a huge Celtic section, 188 coins, as well as, Roman, and they have weights, they have seals, they have everything. And so there's, when you have a sale this size, I mean, a lot of the quality is not high. I'd say it's more mid-range. This is more of an e-sale than it is a paper catalog. So when you have these e-sales, you're going to get lesser quality because obviously it doesn't cost as much to actually
list them,
to run these, to list them. And so you're going to get a lot of coins. And so the only thing that's nice about that I find with auction house like Loy is that their average and lower end tends to be a little bit better than some of the other e-auctions that are going on across the country, which in my opinion, a lot of them, you open them up and it's all junk bowl coins. And if you don't know what a junk bowl coin is, if you've been to any of the coin shows that we're at, Harlan Berk always has a junk bowl that we tend to bring, and it's a pick bowl for usually anywhere between $15 and $20. You get a deal if you buy, 5 or 6 pieces, and it's a great way for people to get started in numismatics. But what we're finding now is a lot of these e-sales of these companies I've never heard of, and some that I have heard of, are basically running $20 coins in e-sales. So I've talked about it. It's harder to stomach some of those sales. But there's a place for them. Not everybody can afford expensive coins, and so that is definitely an advantage for those people. But I think most people going through and paying a buyer's fee on a junk bull coin is not very exciting, and probably isn't the most cost efficient thing to do. But
yeah, I saw several in the listings that were, $25 and
Right.
$50. So yeah, absolutely, there are.
but those are interesting Celtic coins. I mean, they're not exactly worn. They're decent grade in general, and so again, there's not real expensive coins in here. I think just kind of looking at it, I didn't really because it's not a high end sale. I didn't feel like profiling anything in this stuff,
Mhm.
but in general, there's some decent Orei in here. There's some Alexander the Great staters in here. They have a nice octodram in here as well. And then some okay Sicilian silver and some Carthage stuff. So there's some nice things in here that could go in a lot of people's print sales.
And the denominator, or the money is in Swiss francs, which roughly
Correct.
equates to US. So I mean, it just gives you a good idea what you're dealing with.
Yeah, the other day I checked it. It was like 0.997 or something. So it was almost 1-to-1. So it's very, very close. So moving on, probably an auction house a lot of you haven't heard of is the Jean Vichon sale out of France. And they have 542 lots. This is a print sale. I haven't seen a lot come out of them for a while, but they have some decent coins in here. Probably worth taking a look at it. Some decent Sicilian, and some decent rarities in here. They have a decagram of Syracuse.
Even the photography on this site is better.
Really? I don't really like their photography.
Well, no, it's better than the last one, though, than the last Loy one. I don't know if it's
I
the coins, because
suppose.
it's generally not Loy. Loy usually does a really good job with
Yeah,
that.
but look at their gold. Their gold looks like blasted.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit
Yeah,
blasted
you're
out.
right. It does. Maybe
So,
they just have their
and the
filters
silver's a little
turned up.
blasted too. I like contrast in my photos. I don't, and honestly, that's why I went for our buyer bid sales. That's why I went to all videos for every single lot, because it's really tough doing coin photography and getting the color right on. And I felt that by doing a video of every single lot in the sale, no matter what the price is, I mean, we do videos for $100 coins in our sales. Because and I've mentioned this, I didn't want to make one client feel like they're not worthy over another based on the value of the coin that they're buying. That every client was valued by our firm. And but really what it comes down to is that gold and silver especially, is very difficult to photograph, especially if there's a lot of luster on the coin. And so by having videos, it really does give a true nature of what these coins do look like.
And luster is going to really play a part of the value of the coin. This is not a shameless plug, and this is not me kissing up to my boss. This is the honest God truth. One of the things that did impress me when I first came to work at Berk was the fact that we had a photography office, that there were full-time photographers in there that had light boxes and, all the stuff that, big-time magazine photographers use to try and get just the best photographs possible. And I just always kind of thought that was cool.
And I'm always, if my photographers come to me and say, hey, I need a new piece of equipment, it's going to make, job easier, it's going to make things go faster, I'm all for that. It's just, in the end, I think video is going to be the way that of the future for almost all coin dealers, especially with the speeds of the internet. I think you always have paper catalogs because it's kind of a nice old school thing to do, but having video to be able to see flaws and surface issues that can be hidden in photography, when you go to an auction.
And for that reason, I'm going to disagree with you, saying that I think that digital photography and the video and the readiness of the internet to be able to proliferate it is going to put paper catalogs out. It's going to actually do away with them because the technology is so much better. You just see
I think
what
when
you're doing.
yeah, I think when you get to virtual reality, when you'll be able to just put on a visor and go into a coin shop in another country, I think that's when paper catalogs will be gone. But we're a long way off from that. And it's, the thing is that paper catalogs are still a great marketing device. The newspapers that are printed today is old news by the time it hits the press. So, but what is it used for? It's used for marketing. It's used for advertising. It's what pays the bills. But news travels so fast, and just like coin sales, when we put our buyer bid sale up online, we put our 220th buyer bid sale up online the maybe 2 weeks ago, and I just sent the catalog to the printer today. So it's literally up online for probably 4 weeks before people get it in the mail. And so it truly is old news.
So
but there's a reason for it.
hjbltd.com for those of you paying attention.
Well, I mean, time is money, right? And so if I have a catalog sitting at the printer for 10 days, and then I'm waiting for X amount for it to hit the mail, and I'm sitting on coins that people are biting at the bit to get, why wouldn't I just put them online and go?
Yeah.
And so that's
and
what I do.
The good stuff really does go fast.
It does, but a lot of people miss emails. A lot of people don't, they don't go to the area they typically go directly to the area that they collect. So if I collect Roman Republican silver, I might just go to that tab and not look through the entire sale. Whereas if I'm flipping through a catalog, maybe I see a coin that I would have not necessarily bought. So you get a lot more cross marketing from a paper catalog. And also people, they'll pick up a catalog 2 or 3 times or more while it's out, as opposed to going to the web once or twice. So it just, there's a lot of advantages for it still. And it's still a great marketing tool.
Okay, and there's one more auction.
Well, I wanted to profile the Roma sale, which actually closes tomorrow. But they have e-sales quite often. It has 1,872 lots. I always find stuff in here, even though you're paying in the pound, but the pound is pretty good these days in comparison to what it normally is. But 1,872 coins. There are some decent coins in here. When people ask me, they always have probably 20 or 30 Athens tetradrachms in every sale. And so when people ask me when is the group of Athens going to start to slow down, I say, well, when Roma and other companies stop putting 20 or 30 in every sale, then you'll know that the collection, the group has been absorbed. So so it's, I think when you look at these sales, even if you're not buying out of them, just watching what the market is doing is extremely important. And as far as I was looking for duplicious purchases. There's not a lot going on right now. And in fact, I think that people have gotten some good deals. I was looking at the last Nomos sale. There were some very good coins that went for reasonable amounts of money. They weren't crazy at all. And so if anything, during these downtimes between some of the major sales, there's some good deals to be had. Maybe with the scares in the market and with, interest rates getting raised again, maybe people are getting a little, tense. So maybe it's a good time to start buying, from some of these auctions, if it's worth buying, of course.
Of course.
But I'm seeing the market, it's still hot, but in some ways I think it's, coming back to reality a little bit. At least that's what it feels like anyway.
Okay, so anything else to say on the auction front before we move on to our very special guest?
No, not really. I mean, I guess just to point out again, what I'm seeing in the market right now is, the NAC sale, when that came out, there's a lot of it could have been, who knows, it could have been 5 billionaires that were buying up a lot of the best coins at ridiculous prices, and they're not going to be the ones buying in all the rest of these sales that aren't so important to them. And so, so I guess the point is that, this goes back to what we're going to talk about with our Pearl of Wisdom later, is that, or it's a key point to our Pearl of Wisdom, is that, patience is a virtue, really. So, and also just being opportunistic, and making sure that you're always looking. I had a client come in yesterday and he was like, I want to buy a 12 Caesar set. And I said, no, you don't. You want to build a 12 Caesar set. You don't want to buy a 12 Caesar set. If you buy a 12 Caesar set, you're going to get ripped off. Because if I have a 12 Caesar set put aside, then it took me maybe a year or two to put together and tie up money. I'm going to want a huge premium for that.
Sure.
So why don't you collect and we'll build one together? And he liked that idea a lot better.
I think that opportunism is the key to buying virtually anything anyway. That you need to pick your spots. It's not always the right market or the right place to buy what you're looking for. So I think that, you have to take the opportunities when they come.
Exactly. Well, that's all I've got for you, Mike.
Okay. So we will move on to our very special guest. So as promised, we have a very special guest today. We are joined by the author of 100 Greatest Ancient Coins, second edition, newly released from Whitman Publishing and available on Whitman.com, also available on our website, Aaron?
Yep.
At hjbltd.com. Please give a warm Ancient Coin Podcast welcome to Harlan J. Berk. I wish I had.
Thank you.
I wish I had my cue with my applause. So Harlan, I got a chance to get a copy of your 100 Greatest Ancient Coins, and I noticed that the list. I mean, it's got to be impossible to cover the greatest in just 100 coins, or was it not hard?
Well, they asked me to pick out 120 coins, and I only did 106 coins because you've got to write all those. And then they had people vote, and they wanted to put them in order according to what got the best vote. And I said, no, you should do it chronologically. And they said, no, we've got to do it that way. And then they called me up and they said, we've got a question about Alexander. I said, well, if you had the essay on Philip in the right place, you wouldn't ask me that question. So they gave in and let me do it chronologically. Now, on the second edition, they told me they wanted me to write a book on collecting ancient coins. And I said, well, why don't I include it in the book? And they said, well, you're going to eliminate a whole book you could write. I said, yeah, but it'll only be 10 pages. So we put in, about how to collect ancient coins, and we put in a whole section on different pictures of different denominations of Greek, Roman, and so-called Byzantine coins, so people could see them. And we changed a few things for Constantine the 11th. We put the coronation coin on the side and put the coin for the final battle in the front cover because they lost their person who was going to cut dies. They always knew that Christ was going to be there, but they didn't know who the emperor would be. So the die for Christ is fine, but the emperor is really a mess because they lost their die cutter.
And I don't think a lot of people know this, Dad, but you handled the whole horde of the Constantine the 11th.
Yes. I was offered to choose which ones I would buy. They were found actually in Constantinople, and Bankloy had the horde and put the best 3 in their auction. And Simon Bendel offered the rest to various dealers. And I looked at it, and some of these things were $1,400, and some of them were $600. And I said, look, what if I buy everything? Will you give me a little time to pay? And they did. And so that's how I got the entire horde. What was interesting is coins that were $600 didn't have name, but they were coronation coins. So those I got 600 for, and the ones that were 14,000, I sold for 14,000 because they weren't worth any more than that.
Right. Now now they're bringing 50,000
Yeah, or more, yes.
or more. Exactly.
But most of since we have 2 of the 3 denominations, I generally sold them 2 coins each to various collectors. So that's why the hoard doesn't flood the market, because it went to individual collectors who bought 2 coins at a time, the large and small denominations.
So besides, my father's written 2 books on Byzantine coins, as well as the 100 Greatest book, one on Byzantine copper and one on gold. But what a lot of people don't realize is actually he was a collector of the coins of Kristos and put together one of the most fantastic collections, which is actually in the 100 Greatest book. And his collection is now used as reference for all of the Kristoses that come onto the market. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you started collecting the Kristos collection and how you put it together?
Well, I got a call about a very unusual Kristos heavy stater of 10.6 grams. And when I got it, I realized that nothing like it had ever been seen. But what it amounts to is almost all the coins of Kristos that I have were found together in one place. So I started buying all I could buy from one particular source. And for that, and in that way, I put together the collection. Now, what's remarkable is Kristos, and he probably had some CFO do this, Kristos issued the first gold and silver coins in existence. Before that, everyone used electrum. Now, in addition to that, he had trial and pattern coins that were used for the larger denominations. And his total amount of different coins, different denominations, was 17 different denominations. Nobody from then till now has ever issued a series of 17 different coins. No matter what you think about, that was never ever done. So first gold and silver coins, and then the largest set of denominations. So he did a light and a heavy of the gold coins, and he did one set of the silver coins with a 1/6 stater, which wasn't in the gold. Now, who knows? Maybe someday we'll discover the 1/6 stater. When I wrote my first article on Kristos, there was a lightweight 1/24 stater that I said must have been found, must exist, but I never found it. So Sotheby's called me after the article was written a year or 2 later and said, well, we have one coming up for auction. And so for this coin that was like 0.40 of a gram, I paid $2,000. So I knew it had to exist, but I hadn't seen it. But they read my article and told me I had to buy it out of auction, which I did.
And I know it took a while for a lot of the numismatic community to start using your numbers from the article. And I know that was pretty frustrating for a while. And how rewarding is it now that everybody uses Berk numbers for their
it's
cataloging Kristos?
Very rewarding because for people to use something I wrote internationally is very, very rewarding. Even if they didn't want to use my name, they have to. Now, another thing that's interesting is you've got a lion and a bull facing. Now, originally you'd think they're fighting, but they're not. The lion, in my view, and I haven't interviewed Kristos recently because I understand he's a And the bull, in my view, represents reproduction. So if you come and fight with us, we'll beat you, and we'll always produce more soldiers. So that's my personal view of the type.
That's a really interesting take from a symbolism standpoint.
Yeah. Now, one other thing. After Kristos was defeated, the people who defeated him issued a 1 silver and 1 gold coin, and then went to their regular denominations after that. So they had no way or no interest in issuing this large, complex denomination or set of denominations. So they only did the lightweight gold and the lightweight silver. I mean, the light stater of gold and the light stater of silver. But they wouldn't. Nobody attempted what Kristos did or what his CFO did, and nobody in the history of the world. Think about it. Nobody in the history of the world came up with such a large, complex set of denominations. And there are also, in the larger denominations, a number of trials and patterns that are different than the regular issue, but came out, earlier. Because when we find them, usually more worn than the standard issues. And within the standard issues, there is a few variations. In the 10-gram coin, there's one that has 2 ribbons over the horn of the bull and one that has no ribbons. So there are some slight variations. So it was quite a thing.
Well, so just kind of moving on a little bit. So you started in 1964, but obviously you were collecting much earlier than that with U.S. coins. What, in your over 50 years of doing this, what are the biggest changes you've seen in numismatics?
The internet and the quantity of auctions. When I started, I was told that there were 2 auctions a year, one by Munson Medallion, which wasn't every year, and one by Bank Loy. And so those were the 2 auctions a year. Now there's an auction every day. And also when we sold coins, we would put out a catalog or a mailing list, a letter. And that was it. When I bought my first coins from Fred Knobloch and Charlie Wolf, they would send me a Polaroid picture of the coin they were offering me. And of course, being whatever I am, I'd call them right away and said, send it to me. But, there was no such thing as looking on the internet for pictures of coins. I mean, I was sent Polaroids. And so that's a big thing. And also, when I started, everything was done at coin shows or on mailing lists. Now it's changed radically, and we all know how much it's changed.
I think I also remember you telling me, Harlan, that you used to be able to go to shows and you would buy things in Europe, and because there really was no knowledge of it anyplace else, you were kind of the only game in town when you brought it back. And
look, when I started, we were children sitting on the knees of the Europeans. We knew very little, and they knew everything. And so that has changed radically. Now we know as much or more than the Europeans, or we're even, probably because the world has become so small. So that has been a large difference. Also, before we had this problem with bringing coins across borders and all of this stuff, when a hoard was found, it was cataloged and published, and we learned a lot. Now, if a group of coins or a hoard of coins are found, they can't be published, and so we lose a lot of knowledge that we would have otherwise. That's because of the people who are saying, well, you shouldn't collect coins.
Right. Well, they're not really even after coins. They're after, just the whole site, which we know that a lot of coins aren't found on sites anyway.
Right.
So what's your favorite coin story?
Well, there's a lot, but when I worked for Gold Stella in 1964, there was a fellow there who published a book called Penny Whimsy, and it was written by William Sheldon about large cents from 1793 to 1857. And I liked the coins with the heads, 1794 with the type or heads of 93, which are much sought after and extremely expensive now. But I would go to coin shows, and this was, 6 years after the book was published, and I would buy these really rare coins for $50 to $100 each.
Wow, amazing.
I guess another funny story from the beginning is also when I worked for Gold Stella in Carson Peary Scott, they paid me the large sum of $70 a week out of college. And a fellow came in with a stack about 4 inches thick of Confederate money. And the boss, who was actually the relative, the son-in-law of the guy who put it all together, who had been his profession was making kitchens or fixing kitchens, and I showed him the thing, and he said you shouldn't buy it. It was $400. So on my $70 a week, I said, look, if it doesn't work, I'll pay for it. And of course, at the first coin show I went to, I sold one of them, which was a Confederate Bond, for the $400.
Wow. Yeah, wasn't the very first ancient coin deal, like the biggest ancient coin deal you got at the beginning? Didn't that come from a priest or something of Roman gold?
Yes, I'm surprised you remembered. Yes, the priest came, a group of Roman gold that he'd inherited, and they were really fantastic coins. And as we looked, we found some of them had been in auctions as early as 1911. And so while a lot of people are into provenance now, from my beginnings, I was into provenance and researching in the old the real Ars Classica books that I had to try to find the coins. And so I'd been researching for provenance from the beginning of my profession.
Yeah, and that collection kind of launched your ancient coin business, didn't it?
Financially, yes. When I went to work for Gold Stella, they were stupid enough to hire me at the age of 22 as their coin expert. And they had an advisor, Carl Subak, who actually showed me what an ancient coin was, because I had no idea. I'd had a sestertius of Domitian for 10 years and didn't know what it was. So he introduced me to Roman coins, and I got a copy of Cohen. But I tried to figure out what the coin was by looking at the obverse. But Cohen is, you look at the reverse to figure out what cone number it is. As far as Greek coins, we were driving to a fishing trip in Minnesota, and I was reading a book on great Greek coins, a thin book by Charles Seltman, all on the best Greek coins. And that got me interested in Greek coins.
That's awesome. So, Mike, that's all I've got.
Well, we want to thank Harlan J. Berk for sharing his time with us, for sharing his knowledge, and we really appreciate you coming on our show. Thank you very much, Harlan.
Yeah, I'm sorry that everything I came up with was from the beginnings, but there's been so many deals that it's hard to remember. I mean, once someone sold me almost 300 Syracusan tetradrams for, I think it was $120 a piece. So all kinds of things like that happened.
So
And,
promise,
those were the days.
yeah. So promise me this, Harlan, that you'll come back and you will share some more stories with us sometime.
Whenever you call me, I'll be around.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Harlan J. Berk, ladies
Thanks
and gentlemen.
a lot.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So that was a very interesting interview and something that that I think our listeners will really enjoy. So let's wrap it up with our pearl of wisdom. And you were talking about being opportunistic, but I think the pearl in all of that was that patience pays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just how I just mentioned about the guy who wanted to build the 12 Caesar set with one purchase.
I thought that was the perfect example. That, I've always said, look, you don't want to buy a complete set of anything anyway, because that takes all the fun out of it. You don't learn anything. And at the end of the day, you have what somebody else envisioned as a set. You want it to be your own. You want to go through the trials and the tribulations of putting it together and finding it, because it makes you appreciate what they are so much more, and it makes you appreciate certain coins that are really difficult to get.
Yeah, and you can be picky about the portraiture that you're looking for. If it's a 12 Caesar set, if it's something else, it's whatever that thing is. Today, a gentleman came in and he was looking at Antoninus Pius Denari, and he asked me which one I liked better. And there was one that had more of a historical value to it based on the striking and what it was issued for. And there was one, and the other one had more artistic quality or artistic merit. And he felt that the history was more important to him it wasn't an ugly coin,
sure,
but at the same time, he decided the history was more important to him. So you also, when you're building these, whether you're buying a set or building a set, or you're buying individual coins, you're always buying individual coins, but you're going to learn through trial and error what you really do like and what you're really after. If you buy a set, it's built based on what the person who was building it thinks or enjoys or likes, not you. And so unless they are like an amazing collection and everything is pristine, you're going to probably get a set and you're going to find one coin or two coins or even more that you don't like and you're going to want to replace. And so why not just do it right and learn, and also be opportunistic? I've had people who they pass on a major rarity because maybe they think it's too expensive, or maybe they think the time's not right. And those kinds of things, all the collectors I've talked to throughout the decades of me doing this, the one thing that they always mention over and over again isn't the coins that they bought, it's the pieces they didn't buy.
It's the fish that got away. It's always that one. Yeah.
Always that way.
I think it's just so important that your collection be something that reflect you and your thing. Now, the exception that proves the rule on that is if you're buying the finest known of anything, right? Somebody else can't own that, and sure, you buy that, you have the finest. There's really nothing to upgrade on it anyway. But if you're buying really anything else, you're over time going to put your footprint on it anyway. And if you don't, you probably weren't that interested in it in the first place.
Well, and also when you're building these things or looking at different auction houses, or you're working with a dealer showing you lots of different material, you're going to start to develop an eye. And you're not going to develop an eye for numismatics if you have somebody else build it for you, or not work with you to build it. Even though I have clients that say, help me build a collection, which I do, over time they start to learn what my eye sees. But we're doing it slowly over time, and eventually the collector comes back to me and says, see, you taught me, I understand now.
But yet they don't agree with you 100% on everything, which means that you really did. You taught them to think for themselves, and they did.
Yeah, but in general, I think people, they realize, and the other thing too is there's
a reason the good stuff is good.
Right. And also, being opportunistic only means to buy coins that don't come up hardly ever. It's common coins you don't need to be opportunistic about.
Well, you could be
You just don't.
opportunistic with them in the fact that you find bargains on them. That's the opportunities,
Sure.
right? So, but
Sure.
you do have to understand that some of these coins, like, a few of them that come up once in a lifetime, that's why the prices for them go so nuts, is because somebody's been sitting there waiting for this coin for 40 years.
Exactly. Supply and demand.
Yeah.
People always ask me, why do certain coins have values over others? And it's simple economics, boys and girls. It's supply and demand.
Well, but I have long cried for the coin market being, it's sad that the bottom end of the coin market seems to not do very well a lot. That it often loses in value and stuff like that. Yet the top end of the coin market just continues to go up and up and up. And the reason for it is exactly that these pieces just come up so seldom.
But Mike, and we've talked about this on this show, when somebody mentions the word investment to me with coin collecting, I usually shy away.
Yeah.
People should collect for enjoyment. If you make money, great, but don't do it purely as just an investment.
Well, if you do, you're going to lose.
You can, but I would suggest that that's not the best way to collect. And so these people that are buying at the bottom, lower levels, they're just having fun.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no.
And they're okay with that.
Right.
And so, they can buy as many coins as they want. They can deal with quantity, and they're going to learn a lot more than the person who's buying, high-end coins, because the people who are buying low-end, they're buying almost every day. They're buying something, or they're going to shows and they're going through pick jars and they're grabbing 20, 30, 40 coins. You're going to learn a ton.
Sure, the sheer volume that they're going through is just going to outnumber everybody else.
So you're going to learn so much. And again, I've mentioned this before. If you focus on one area of coinage, and I'll give you an example. This is with antiquities, though, but it's the same thing. I had a gentleman come in today. He's been collecting Athenian pottery for at least 15 to 20 years. And Michael Pageant, who is the best curator on Greek vases probably in the world, he's great. He's great academic because you can send him pictures and he'll help you with dating and also sometimes give you the vase painters' names. But he told this client that he goes to him and asks him questions about one specific area of blackware attic pottery because he knows it better than Michael does.
Wow.
Because he's been focusing. So how much of a rewarding feeling that is to have the foremost expert come to you and ask you a question, and he's just a collector, but he's been focusing on, one area of pottery that Michael just didn't care about as much.
Sure.
It's blackware, which is, some of the more
but
cheaper.
It's still cool
pottery.
to be that guy.
But how cool is that? And so I asked him, he said, I guess I'm the best expert in the world on this stuff. And I said, yeah, you are.
That's cool.
And so that's very rewarding. And he doesn't do it for the investment either. He just does it because he loves it. Yeah. He's not buying necessarily the best. He's buying examples and learning from them. And so I learn from collectors like that because, again, they're focusing. And that's the beauty of collecting, doing what, I do it for a job, but there's people I'm passionate about what I do, but there are people who are strictly passionate about what they collect and how they collect it and want to learn like a sponge.
And more power to them.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah. And that's the beauty of numismatics as a whole.
No, I think that's exactly it, that you can do it the way you want, you can do it to whatever level you want, and you can do it as intensely as you want, and it's all up to you. And that's, we have a lot of people on the U.S. counter that come in, they're like, well, what can I buy that's going to hold it? And I just look at them, I'm like, buy something you like. Because at the end of the day, if the world comes to an end or close to it and what you have is worth nothing, you have something you like. So, that's really that's it.
I tell people, do you see a tie? I'm not an investment broker. I'm not selling stocks and bonds.
I don't think I've even seen you ever wear a shirt that could be worn with a tie.
I hate ties.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. All right, so anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, Mike.
So I think we have another action-packed episode here. Many thanks to Harlan for coming in and talking to us. And it's cool that he'll come back and he'll talk to us more. Thanks to our production staff for helping slap this together from the pieces that we're giving them. And thanks to all you who listen, because you're the reason that we do this. So I hope you're learning. I'm having fun. And according to Aaron, I am learning. So that's good to know.
I like when you learn, Mike. It makes me feel like I'm doing my job.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So I guess that's it for us. And we'll talk to you next episode 13. Lucky 13 of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the ancient coin market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things in order to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.